So I want to break down where the Packers currently rank in both offensive and defensive spending to see where they are utilizing their money, sort of their strategy right now. If we look at the Packers defense, they're 14th highest when it comes to spending on defense at $127.4 million. And then they are 25th on offensive spending, according to Spotrac, at $124.9 million. So 25th overall in offensive spending, 13th at quarterback spending. Jordan Love with his new deal from last year. The cap hit is still pretty manageable when you just look at other quarterbacks in the NFL. Jordan Love cap hit is around 29 or so million. Dak Prescott's at 50 mil. And so right now, just in the early part of Jordan Love's contract, his new deal that got done last summer, it's still relatively cheap compared to the rest of the NFL. He's almost top 10, but not quite in quarterback spending. Then running back, the Packers are pretty high up there, 4th in running back spending, but they're still 30th in wide receiver spending, 30th in tight end spending, 19th in offensive line spending. And I think one of the biggest reasons they're still so low on the list on offensive spending is because the one area where they're spending a lot of money just compared to the rest of the league is running back. But the running back position is much cheaper than the wide receiver position, where the top wide receiver makes about $40 million, the top running back makes about $20 million. And so even though the Packers are spending up at running back, it's not that expensive. And so when you look at wide receivers these days, I mean, they're getting so much money, and it feels like the Packers' strategy is to consistently draft young receivers just because I think there's a lot of value there just based on what you're going to have to pay receivers when they go on to their next contract after their rookie contract. And so with Matthew Golden coming in, he's actually the highest paid Packers receiver at $4.39 million per year. Next is Christian Watson at $2.3 million. And then Savion Williams coming in. He's only at $1.5 million per year. And so let's say Matthew Golden comes in. He produces like a first-round wide receiver. That's the kind of value where if he was on a normal type contract after his rookie deal, he could be making $30 to $40 million. And so when you get that price at $4.3 million per year, that's a massive steal there. And so I think that's the main reason the Packers are still so low on spending is because Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, they haven't yet gotten their new contracts. I don't know if the Packers would bring both of them back. I doubt it. We'll have to see what happens with Christian Watson's knee injury. And then Jaden Reed still also on his rookie contract. And so when you have all these receivers on rookie deals, it just makes your offensive spending that much lower. And then looking at tight end as well, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft still on their rookie deals, so it's cheap there. So in a couple of years, it's going to get a little more expensive at wide receiver and tight end for the Packers. And then 19th in offensive line spending, which should take a massive jump forward whenever Zach Tom gets his deal, which I assume will probably happen in the next couple months. Gutekunst has already said that they've been in those discussions. And offensively and defensively for the Packers, there are 3 different players who have over $10 million cap hits for 2025. Jordan Love, which I already shared, $29.6 million. Elton Jenkins, $17.6 million. And then Josh Jacobs, $11.3 million. Aaron Banks is around $9 million, so he's not yet up to the $10 million range. And so I think for this Packers team, when you have that young receiver talent on rookie deals, you have Jordan Love, you're spending up there. The Packers have been able to be a top 10 offense, even though they are not spending a ton of money, just because their rookies are playing great. And that's sort of where a lot of their production is coming from. And then if you look defensively, 14th highest spending on defense. The Packers are only spending $3 million more on defense versus offense. So it's one of the more balanced teams in the NFL, just when it comes to offensive and defensive spending. There's a few teams who are super unbalanced, like the Bengals, the Eagles as well, but the Packers are very balanced with their spending. 14th when it comes to interior defensive line spending, 10th at edge rusher, 27th at linebacker, 7th at safety, of course, with Xavier McKinney, 25th in cornerback spending, and then 3 players with over $10 million cap hits. Rashawn Gary, $25.7 million. Kenny Clark, $20.3 million. Then Xavier McKinney, $17.85 million. And so it feels like the Packers like to, at least this year, keep things pretty balanced, offense versus defense, which, I mean, I think anything could work. If you bolster up your offense, you have one of the best offenses in the league. you can maybe, have a slightly less good defense if your offense is sort of carrying the load. But I think we saw from the Packers last year, 6th best scoring defense, 8th best scoring offense. The money they're spending has sort of allowed them to, be good on both sides of the ball. And I think at the end of the day, one of the biggest things is how good is your quarterback. If you have a bad quarterback, good luck winning games. If you have a great quarterback, you're going to be in the mix regardless. And so that's sort of the biggest thing. And that's why I think I have a pretty high opinion of Brian Gutekunst and what he's done. Sure, the Packers haven't gotten to a Super Bowl with Brian Gutekunst. I do think he put them in position to get there with Rodgers and Davante Adams. Not able to really get over the hump, those NFC championships. But I think when you have the 4th best winning percentage since you've taken over as GM, you've done a really good job. And so I think the way the Packers operate financially, where they put the money, typically it seems to work out, because when you're winning games, the Packers are good at finding value, good at finding guys who maybe are pretty cheap out there in the open market occasionally that come in and produce at a pretty high level. So when you're winning consistently regular season, I think that shows just sort of what you're doing, where you're putting the money. So that's basically the overall spending. I found it interesting, and it's going to shift as time goes by, as the receivers make more money and the offense is probably going to get a lot more expensive. So we'll sort of see how things shift as, time goes forward. But that's all I have for this one. If you want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.